Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to an all-new episode of Point of View. We've got a lot in store for you this week. And joining us for today's discussion, all right, we've got Willie Montague back at the table. And we've got an exciting guest. Welcome, Tiffany, back to the show.
Hey, Tiffany.
Hey, y'all.
So coming up on today's show, we're fresh off Mother's Day weekend, but New York took things to a whole new level with a Mother's Day special. Oh yeah, a public list of the top deadbeat dads in the county. Plus, we're talking about the new U.S.-born Black Pope making headlines. And later, you don't want to miss Girlfriend's Guide, an unpopular opinion. So stay tuned and join the discussion. You're watching POV. So before we get into today's topics, welcome, happy belated Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day to all the incredible moms out there. Woo-hoo! Woo! Yes. Now, speaking of Mother's Day, Suffolk County just took things to a whole new level. They dropped a list of the top deadbeat dads in the area, hoping a little public shame will push them to step up and pay their dues. But is this move more so for accountability or just a messy way to shame people? What you think about this? Let me look at this list.
Me personally, if you're asking me,
I
think that the county should be shamed. I feel like I hope that these fathers maybe can sue for defamation of character or something like that. I do know that, in a lot of instances, child support is a tool, but I just feel like, it's so iffy. And so many times we don't know what's really going on. There are fathers that actually pay and mothers are still suing for back child support. And so I feel like the accuracy of this, like one of the dads, I believe, is listed for $427,000 in back pay, which is not impossible, but I just feel like it's so case sensitive and we don't know who actually has accrued that or who actually is not an active father, or if it's a situation where the mother is just bitter. And so I feel like, shame on the county for doing this publicly. It's really a disgrace on their behalf and not so much to the families that they intended.
Well, sometimes all that money can also be an interest. Like they may have like a portion to pay, but the interest has just accrued for so much time and it gets big. It's bigger than, the actual payments that need to be made.
Why on Mother's Day? Why not list the deadbeat mothers? So why did they take Mother's Day to list the fathers? That was my question that I had up there.
Okay. We heard him.
That's interesting. I mean, I agree with you. Each case is different. You have no idea why, what situation they're in, what's the reason behind them having this kind of balance. I mean, we know sometimes there's a lot of cases where there's dads out there that are treated unfairly, that have to pay, $5,000 in child support for one child, and it's not even accurate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's unfair. It was unjust. I mean, and it was shady. It was shady.
For sure.
Do you think this is going to make them step up, or it's going to make them feel like, forget about it?
No. I don't think it's going to have that effect where they'll be like, hey, here I am.
Right.
Like, it's me.
Let me pay.
Let me hurry up and pay
Yeah.
my child support. No.
Yeah.
No.
It kind of makes you feel like, how dare they? I'm not paying nothing.
If anything, this would have the reverse effect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of them look like they.
Yeah.
They're about
I mean, at what point does holding someone accountable publicly just turn into humiliation?
I think it at all times, because this is why we never know. Just because a person is in law, doesn't mean that they're perfect. I always tell people, if we was to shine the same light on some of these other people, what would that light show about you? And so, we have to take into account that just because people take the law in their own hands and sometimes manipulate it because they have the power to do so, and then they at home, and you've seen all these kind of crime stories where they out there, being a molester, and then go home to their wives and kids and act like nothing ever happened, but they're out there the sheriff of a whole county, and then they don't get caught till years later.
100%. We see that all the time where sometimes they're like, swindling millions of dollars out of, government accounts and things like that. So I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, who are they to judge? But this is the time and, the Constitution or the laws that we are under. And so, I mean, I just think we see a lot of this going on. I know, like, I think it's Jacksonville or one of the Florida cities where there is a sheriff that is constantly like he makes rap songs, and that's his thing. And so he makes rap songs talking about like the criminals, where you at, dog? Turn yourself and you selling drugs, all this, things like that. It's so disgusting, But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess they're getting creative with their tactics here, but someone that owes $422,000 in back child support, baby, you better know it's catch them if you can.
Wow. Well, back to Willie's point about calling out unfit mothers. So you feel like if they can do this to the dads, why not do it to the unfit
Well, it was Mother's Day.
Yeah, well.
A Mother's Day special.
Right.
What does these fathers have to do? Now, if they would have did it in June for Father's Day, that's okay. I get it.
Right.
It's like a thing.
Right.
But what does this have to do with Mother's Day? That wasn't appreciation to the mothers because they still didn't get the money.
Right.
I'm not getting no gift or nothing in the mail, no check. So I feel like it was just one of those things where it was just probably wasting taxpayer dollars.
Oh, wow.
So you should look into
But, I also feel like low-key under Trump, they're getting so creative trying to figure out where they can cut back and how they can recoup some of the money that's going out. So this is probably something maybe that he, has incentivized or initiated in this county, to tell them, hey, well, we'll give you $1 million for the roads if you can catch these dads that didn't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really the county
that money.
get their money back.
They just
Exactly.
couldn't leave Trump off.
Hey,
We were starting off.
We're going to take it.
Oh my goodness. Moving on to our next topic, and this is a major moment in history. The new U.S.-born Pope Leo XIV has some surprising family roots that just came to light. According to newly uncovered records, his maternal grandparents were Creole people of color from New Orleans, dating back to the 1840s. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite his deep connection to Black history, his family says they do not identify as Black, which has sparked a lot of conversation about identity and heritage. Well, that's interesting that, boy, I tell you, it's sad trying to be in leadership and you can't. I'm just going to say he just felt like he wouldn't be able to make it into a leadership position if he had identified as Black.
That's not true. The Pope, first of all, and I probably will offend Catholics, and that's okay. The Pope role is just obsolete. It doesn't exist. It's not real. I said it. And so we have to realize the Pope is just a man, and they take this scripture out of context as it pertains to Peter being the first Pope, and that's the side note. He doesn't even look white anyway. He looks like there is something that's in him other than him being there. So if he doesn't want to accept his roots, that's his bit. But a lot of people, even in the state of Florida, when you ask them who they are and they're Haitian, they don't even want to say they're Haitian because it has a bad stigma with it. So I don't know if it's not wanting to recognize his background or he doesn't want the stigma that he came from some, as they think, some poor ran down place and whatever. But again, all this worship of the Pope and stuff like that, nothing has absolutely changed. Jesus Christ and him crucified is the way.
Yeah.
Mary has been dead and gone a very long time. And it's time to exalt the Most High. That's who we have to exalt.
Say it for the ones in the back.
Now you done said something for the first time on this whole show. As many times as you've come on, you said something tonight. All right. What do y'all think the idea of a Black Pope is still so controversial in 2025? Is it about race, tradition, or something deeper?
They don't want to accept. If you go to the real Catholic churches, they actually have the actual, they don't have the crucifix the way we see in other Catholic churches. They actually have it as Jesus being Black.
This is what
and if you actually see Pope Francis, he actually bowed and kissed the feet of Black because they understood the tribe of Judah and the lineage of where Christ came from. So a lot of it is not wanting to identify the lineage. And if people are true Jewish and other cultures, they would realize the true foundation of what we call Christendom today. And so that's another to bring me back and we'll talk about that.
We're going to talk about it, huh? What do y'all think about this?
I think that there's so much going on that we just aren't really privy to. And so I kind of just try to, stay back and watch the best that I can in situations and conversations like this. I do agree with Willie, at his point to, you know, the Pope's office is not as revered or as important as it used to be. You know, and that's just in our everyday lives. You know, the same like, you know, the Queen of England, she used to be, when she was alive, you know, was just this big office and everybody respected it. And that's just not the time that we're living in now, unfortunately. But maybe a little bit fortunate as well. But I just think that there's so much going on underneath that Vatican. So where maybe in the public eye, it's not important, but they're doing something down there with them portals and them demons now. That's what I do know.
Because when Pope Francis, right, during that time when, what was going on, he had unlocked 5 of the portals that was in the Vatican that had not been done for years, hundreds of years. And he had unlocked, one of them was being the Apostle Paul. And so, you know, and they named it literally portals. And so to me, it's like, what are you unlocking, and why the term portal?
Right.
And what are you releasing?
What about, you know, what about this, you know, fact that I see a lot of people talking about on social media and things like that, that, you know, I guess some Pope way back in the day wrote like the trajectory of, you know, the popes to come, and that this Pope was the last picture, like that's in the Vatican, the last availability for a Pope. And so after that, they say that, you know, Resurrection Day is coming, Jesus, you know, Lord.
Yeah, it's called the Bodnik or something. It's like there was no more slots left after this Pope. Yeah.
Oh.
They say it's the end, baby.
Wow.
Be with us.
All right. Okay, well, we have to take a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're getting into Girlfriend's Guide and Unpopular Opinion. So stay tuned. You are watching POV.
Happy Monday. Shout out to our viewers that are hanging out with us on the break on our socials. We have a question for you guys at home as well as for us at the table. What is a double standard that you just cannot stand?
For me, I would say a double standard that I cannot stand. Okay, so when men who are at home taking care of the kids, they are praised, right? They are applauded. But the women who are at home taking care of the kids, we're labeled. Yeah. We're labeled. We're not even looked at. We're not even like revered. We're not, you know, praised. It's just expected. We're expected to do that. Right. You know? So that's the double standard I have an issue with.
Are we talking about full-time stay-at-home dads?
Yeah, full-time stay-at-home dads.
So maybe that's, you know, new to me, because I know, like, you know, maybe dads are praised more when they kind of stand up to the plate and take over for the week or the weekend. But, you know, I've commonly heard, like, when dads are stay-at-home, it's like, where your manhood at? Like, you know what I'm saying?
They are, yeah.
Like, you know, why you ain't making the money? Like, so she just tell you what to do? I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
That one, Willie?
Just text messages. When people say they don't text, and then you look at them and they're texting everybody.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
That's why I block them quick.
Oh, listen. Well, you guys let us know in the comments if you have a double standard that you just cannot stand, and we will get back to the show in a few seconds here. Don't go nowhere. You're watching POV.
Welcome back. So it's time to get into all things love, life, and relationships, and everything in between. So let's get into Girlfriend's Guide. All right, so we came across an interesting take on social media asking the question, why is it that men can still be considered high value in the dating world with multiple kids and multiple baby mamas, multiple women, but women can't? So let's take a look.
Number one, your womb has already been occupied by another man's seed. That's the biggest part, right? Then on top of that, your whole body just changed physically. So going back to why can't a woman be high value? one of the most valuable things we have to offer as a quote unquote depreciating asset. What I mean by that is as we get older, it's harder to create legacy. Having children is harder.
Right.
We can be as fine as we want to be, but if there's somebody out here that's just as fine as they want to be, that has all the accolades you have, that's just as nurturing, just as caring, just as mindful, just as loving, just as sweet, and doesn't have children yet by another man, why would you choose a woman with kids? It
Cut me in, Coach.
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen, I want to preface this by saying I 100% do not actually loathe the term high value.
Me too.
I don't know if it came around with Kevin Samuels, if he's the one that kind of made it, popular or whatever, but I think it's so disgusting. I remember I had a lash tech that I was going to. Love her. She's an amazing girl. And so, when I was getting my lashes and we would talk and have great conversations, but she would listen to Kevin Samuel. And I remember, I used to feel so bad sometimes, the fact that, she was accepting a lot of what he was saying. And there was a little bit of truth to it. There's some truth in every lie, you know? But just the fact that he was permeating so many minds and thought process and people were accepting what he was saying as fact. I believe that we are high value because Jesus and God put their value on us. Not because you're big or you're skinny or you're, oh, Lord.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that, women, please don't listen to none of this and this high value stuff, especially when a man is doing, come on, way more and then want to judge a woman, talk about she not high value. Well, how you have value with all these baby mamas and all the drama, because men never like the drama. But you are the drama, though. I don't get it, because you must like it if you keep going to get babies' mamas. And also, maybe you just don't really know what you're worth, and you're not really understanding what high value actually means, because then I think you'd be more conscious about where you're planting your seed. It wouldn't just be everywhere, all over the place. That just makes no sense. So, that's how I feel about that. But women, look, you have to start to look at yourself the way Christ sees you, the way he says it. That's how you're going to have to look at yourself and take his word as the truth. Because what everybody else is talking about here, forget about that.
I'm telling you, and that's my thing on a daily sometimes. I'm just constantly speaking to myself to make sure that every day I'm seeing myself as Christ sees me.
You have to.
And not looking for validation outside. That's on top of that, when it comes down to relationship, love, life, marriage, and all of those things, all it takes is for one person to see your value. You don't need 100 people to deem you as valuable anyways.
Right.
See, I say, according to whose point of view.
Right.
Or you high valued or not. You know what I mean? This whole opinion and this Kevin Samuels topic of high valued, even if he was the one that brought it up or not, it's causing this rift between men and women.
Right.
That should not even happen.
Right.
First of all. And then second of all, it's causing this topic where I'm up here and you're down there.
Yeah.
So what makes you, even worth my time? Who are we?
Right.
Who are we?
I think who we should are really get rid of that term.
To really come out and say such a thing, or who are you to even have that mindset? Seriously, I just think that with this whole topic of it all, whether you have kids or don't have kids, who's to say a woman has kids, a man has kids, there's single men, there's single women walking around. Just because they have kids does not mean, or the fact that they're single with kids does not alienate them from being worth something.
Right.
That does not value you, or that does not categorize you.
Yeah.
It's just
how does it make sense? You're looking at someone you saying that someone's less valuable?
That doesn't make any sense.
You're right. How do you come to those terms to make that make sense to you?
It makes me think of, when people used to say all the time, what do you bring to the table?
Yeah.
And it's baby, as a woman of God, I'm the table.
That's right.
He said he's going to prepare a table for me in the face of my enemies.
And he who finds a wife finds a good thing and favor with the Lord. He didn't say the other way around.
Okay. All right. I'm the table, baby.
So now.
So
there's two things.
We forgot about Will.
Now I would like to say, I'll let y'all
clear your throat.
Yes.
So there's two things I'd like to say. So first is I recommend to all women to read Proverbs 31. It's very important, not from the perspective of being a wife, but just perspective of just being a woman, period. The second thing is the Bible clearly states that women are to adorn themselves. This means that you have to be in a posture that of value, in a posture where you are waiting And so oftentimes what happens is the devaluing doesn't come necessarily from other people. It comes from within. If you are not in a posture of adorning yourself and you understand your value and you understand your worth of waiting, whether you have children or not, most of the women that I was engaged to had already had children that were about 9-10 years old. And so that did not bother me because it didn't devalue the woman or whether or not I was going to have children or more children, because I have helped raise people's kids from young, old. So it didn't matter to me of that. But it's very important that women understand adorning themselves. That means set yourself aside. You'll understand your value and your worth. And I like this thing like a showcase. If you go to a jewelry place, right, and you look at every diamond is different. They all sparkle. You may say all of them are pretty, right? But you only gonna find the one that is aligned for you. And that's how I say women adorn yourself. When that man comes looking at that jewelry, you're gonna be the sparkle that he needs in his life.
Women, be validated by what God says about you. All right, it's time for our final segment of the day. Let's get into unpopular opinion. So, Pastor Todd, Transformation Church, is back in the headlines. Pastor Michael Todd. He's in the headlines again. Now, if his name sounds familiar, it might be because he's the same pastor who went viral for that wild moment when he smeared spit into a man's eye during a sermon and had to apologize afterwards. Let's take a look.
It might get nasty. And do you hear and see the responses of the people?
Now Tally was having a lot of trouble with that. She's like, I can't watch it. Well, now he's got people talking about him again, this time for getting a full lineup and shape up on stage during his sermon. And all of this was to get his message across. See that, right? Okay. So do you think this is crossing the line between faith and entertainment? I think sometimes, like, it was a lot because I actually thought he was going to stop his shave. He had made his point and he was going to stop, but he kept going. And that kind of like, wait a second. But I understand when he's trying to teach people, you know, we're trying to get off of the milk into the meat, but you have to have, maybe a road to get there. So maybe that's what he's doing. What do you think?
I think that the haircut display did not bother me at all. Kind of watching it play out, I did see how he was making the analogy of, how, God is the potter in a sense, and he's trying to mold us into something, but we're constantly moving out the way or telling him when to turn on or when to accelerate, go faster. Hey, I need to be cut right here, things like that. And so, we're kind of putting our hands on it and our thoughts on it too much. And that did definitely resonate with me. This is my first time, and I do like Pastor Todd. This is my first time seeing the, eye spit incident. But even with that, I'm going to be very careful because I cannot say what God has led him to do. But, hey, somebody take over.
He's making the demonstration.
No, I've been a pastor for 20 years, so I can say this.
Okay.
This is theatrics. One thing I learned, I'm 37 years old. I grew up in Baptist. I moved to Apostolic Pentecostal, old school, wear dress, thick stockings. The women had to go, couldn't go, do anything, no earrings, none of that, right? And then even in the midst of that, and I've been around Pastor McTide in Oklahoma. I worked with all the youth and teenagers scene. They came in jeans, ripped jeans. I wear ripped jeans. But there's one thing that Bishop Iona Locke said in one of her sermons, which was entitled "Praise Ye the Lord," and she got to a part of it, and she said, "We have to remember that what drew them at that time, the folks of old, was simply the Word of God." And the Bible says, "If He be lifted up, He'll draw all men unto Him." And so sometimes in your message, he may be able to draw people, right? But people would be more stuck here because now the conversation is no more Jesus. Now it's Mike Todd's haircut, it's him spitting in the face, it's his clothes. So you have still taken away from glorifying Jesus when you're there. It may be great illustration, but in today's world, we need nothing but the word of God because people they're fickle and that's all they have. So
Tiffany, what's your thought on this?
I agree with Willie 100% because my whole thing is the word is enough. It is enough. And I don't know how we got to the point where we think that the word is not enough to draw people, and especially our young people. His illustration in itself, the haircut, it didn't bother me so much so as the spitting. I thought the spitting was just outrageous. And, Well,
thank you all. Okay, that's a wrap for today's show. But before we sign off, we'll leave you with your quote of the day. You have to be able to accept failure to get better, by LeBron James. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow right here on POV, only on Afro TV.